Hello guys, and here we are today with another video talking about Decimated DC. It is a thing we do from time to time on the channel, and I'm here today to walk us through this with the beautiful, lovely, charismatic Yanzi Lin.
Hello.
And let's get right down to it. Decimated DC. How do we go from here? So first off, before we get into the actual news of the articles, I gotta point out this is kind of not a mistake. Now you're going to say this is a bit of irony that we see Jessica Cruz gets her own Green Lantern graphic novel with ICE.
Ooh.
Now, of course, this is immigration control type thing. Now that very virtuous book, but below that, the week several DC Comics creators realized that they were out of work. Now, what does that mean? It's March solicits. We'll get into that. Now, some people would say it's a coincidence these things are there at the same time. And yes and no. The way they're stacked, coincidence. The fact that this news is getting out at the same time, no. And this is something we talked about in the previous live stream, and I'm going to talk about it here. But I feel this is DC as they're walking out of the direct market and making comics. As they're stepping out of that, I think there's a tactic here, and I think that tactic is to do a virtue signal book. They did this recently with a Wonder Woman book. Can you bring that up?
Mm-hmm. It was originally called The Wonder Women of History, but it has been renamed to The Wonderful Women of History, with a very decidedly left slant for their list of women whom they consider to be, very historic figures, characters like, people like Elizabeth Warren, Beyonce, of course, AOC. So you have this bunch of ladies that qualify as wonderful women of history, even though I don't think most of these people have really had much of a, contribution to history given their age.
Well, the point's not really the book here. The point's not really the book. The point is why they're doing the book. Well, you could do a whole video dissecting these books on their own, but for this video, I want to put an idea out there, and I think you're going to see more of this, that these are kind of virtues. You can't attack DC Comics for or AT&T for buying DC Comics, stealing their characters, doing their movies, and shutting down the comic industry because they're too busy putting out. They're using virtue signal as a kind of a human body shield, kind of like in the movie where the cop's pulling the thug and then his buddy is shooting back at the cop, but his buddy is catching all the bullets. And this is kind of what I feel like this book is. And again, the Jessica Cruz book. Now, with the Jessica Cruz book, they are getting ready to do a Green Lantern series on HBO that's about to start to film, and she's going to be one of the leads in it. But that's only justifying it on Amazon, really. Jessica Cruz is not a huge character in the DC universe, but they do like her because she is Hispanic and female, and that's two diversity check marks all in one character for Green Lantern. I do feel, though, these books are being put out there at the same time. Like they're in one hand, they're doing a virtue signal book, so you can't say we don't like comics, but let's get out of the direct market at the same time. And this is a nightmare in a way because the direct market is filled with two things. A lot of it's creators that keep these characters and IPs alive and just want to make fun, interesting comic books to sell. And then the second part is the people who sell them, which unlike most industries, the comic industry is really made up of a lot of small mom and pop businesses. There's not like a big chain of stores really outside of something like Midtown Comics that actually sells comic books. So most comic shops, if you shut down the comic market, or at least the direct comic book market, you are literally attacking small mom and pop shops. And you as a big corporation, AT&T, Warner Brothers, whatever, you're basically taking all their heads off by stepping out of the comic book industry. Not because you decide to quit making comics, but you're taking this huge library of characters that, let's face it, comic book creators, fans, and the retailers have cultivated for you. And now you're taking your ball and you're going home. And if you have a comic shop, that's tough. You should diversify, your inventory or something. Now, now, my theory is that we're going to see a lot more of these, what I call diversity projects that will run up the flagpole when it's time for maybe the news to catch wind that they just dropped their titles to 34 books. That, like if we look at the other article, that's real news that a lot of DC creators and DC editors are about to lose their jobs. A lot of DC creators found out they don't have work by seeing March solicits. They saw a line of 50 some odd books that then shrank to around 34 books. A lot of guys found out either they don't have a book, or if they were working on Green Arrow, now the Green Arrow story is a backup story, and it's maybe anywhere between 5 to 10 pages and maybe a Green Lantern book or something, or JLA book. So they just lost a bunch of work. So they don't have enough work to get by on. And so either way, this is a news story on its own. We've had news stories happen when COVID happened, talking about what's going to happen to the comic book industry in the Washington Post. And I do think that when shareholders and HBO Max isn't doing well, the last thing that AT&T wants, or HBO, or whatever you want to call the head of this beast, Warner Brothers, that they want is bad news about the comic book industry, because they've really tied up their platform with, the Snyder Cut, Wonder Woman 1984, a lot of superhero stuff. So they have this weird predicament where they're trying to stop a publicity nightmare of a lot of mom and pop shops getting put out of business, standing there with going out of business signs on their comic book shop and a cutout board of Superman or Wonder Woman or something like that. And these things could hit the news cycle probably any month and any year. I think 2021 we're going to see this, and it's not going to look good for that company. And I have to feel like, especially when we talk about Daniel Cherry, who is a big activist, if you look him up on social media and whatnot, that some of these diversity books aren't there. They're purposely coming up at the right time to kind of look like, yeah, they're doing the right thing with their character. They're super progressive. We can't cast shade at this, but it's okay for people to find out on the internet that they can't pay their bill in March.
Let me try this theory. So let's see then. So they actually announced this Wonder Woman of History book in between the two bloodbaths. Look at it. It was announced in September. The first bloodbath happened in August, didn't it? And the second one was in November. So I guess you're right. Your theory is correct. They're throwing this up. By the way, say, don't look at all the firings that are happening. By the way, look at this wonderful project we have celebrating womanhood. Yay,
and somebody's going to say, Shane, they wouldn't spend money like that. And I'm like, yeah, they would. That's one graphic novel that they'll put out there, but they just cut 15 books off their line, more, 16, so 16. So they cut 16 titles. These are monthly titles, are gone. They're wiped out.
From December till March, they did lose 16 titles. And just so you guys get the point of how much they're leaving the direct market, notice that this Jessica Cruz Green Lantern graphic novel is going to, not through individual monthly floppies, it's coming out as a graphic novel. It will be published by DC Comics in September 2021. So they're saying, mom and pop shops, this title is not for you. Not really. It's for, Barnes and Nobles and Amazon.
Yeah. That's going to be the place it is. Now, with the Jessica Cruz thing and talking about diversity comics and diversity points, Yanti pointed this out, but this actually hits two birds with one stone with this book.
First of all, it talks about how Jessica Cruz herself is part of DACA, which is also known as the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. So she's a dreamer. Jessica Cruz is a dreamer. And that's the second point. Her father was detained by ICE because guess what? He's an illegal immigrant to the United States. So whoop, whoop. Two big political talking points in one graphic novel. It's two for the price of one.
Right. And, why not? Yeah, it's a Hispanic DC character. Green Lantern's a thing going forward. Let's really push in Jessica Cruz. We need, maybe in the same time, they're kind of developing the character maybe a little bit, because I don't know if
HBO
the character's been developed. Well, just in general, I don't think this character is relatively new. She obviously was made as a type of not Hal Jordan type of Green Lantern, even though, but I mean, I don't know. I've never really understood the character too well, or the need for the character.
After all, there are already 4 Green Lanterns before her introduction and Simon's introduction as well. So,
all right. So it is a theory. Now, I think we will see more of these type of books being produced, and oddly enough, they will not be in singles because they're really not for comic shops. And this is kind of like handing a man a sandwich in the desert when he's crawling and begging for water. And you hand him a sandwich. That's basically what they're doing here. This isn't something that comic shops, this isn't going to help them in the rebound. This isn't going to help anybody but the company in looking like they're doing the right thing type of book. This isn't even about entertainment. There's nothing here that's supposed to be entertaining. These are social issues that they're forming into a comic book, and they're kind of shoehorning on a character. It is what it is. Now 2021, I do think we're going to see a lot of divestment from the direct market. Oddly enough, I feel like we're going to see these things float out time to time. And these are the things that are supposed to be in the news, not the small mom and pop shops that are going out of business, not the comic creators that that AT&T, Warner Brothers owes a lot to, that your Henry Cavills, your Ben Afflecks, your Zack Snyders owe the farm to. You're not going to hear about those guys not being able to pay their bills. This is going to be an interesting year. I do expect more of these things. Decimated DC. That's all I got.
Make a point, dear. I just noticed something too. If you notice, this book for the Wonder Women of History was announced in about September or so, and now we have this Jessica Cruz book just announced right now in December. Then these two books just got announced only after Daniel Cherry came in.
Well, I suspect a lot of this is actually, that's why I said before, Daniel Cherry is, if you look at his profiles, he's an activist. He also came from companies like Red Bull and stuff. And I feel like this, because he's a branding guy, he was brought in because there's a PR nightmare of we're divesting from comics. We're going to take, work and money away from small mom and pop shops. We're going from creators. And it's a PR nightmare because we're trying to harvest all these things in the form of TV, video games, and everything. So how do we get out of the comic business and take all the characters and all the IP and screw over hundreds of creators and hundreds and thousands of comic shops in the direct market and get out of this unscathed? And I'm not so sure. If you look at Daniel Cherry's resume, that this is the job he was brought into the company for, because he's a branding guy, and branding a lot of times is just about the right image on the right product. And right now they obviously think of the comics characters as a product, not as a medium. And they want a different spin on what they're doing. And I do think it is stepping out of the comic market. And there is a bit. It does look like you're kind of, robbing the cradle, so to speak. You're taking a lot from comics without giving back to a group of fans, retailers, and creators. There's 3 people here being damaged: fans, creators, and retailers. Now, they do care about the fans to some degree, just not enough to keep giving you comics. They just want your HBO Max subscription. And that's my theory. Time is only going to tell if we're right. I'm not saying this is 100% true. I'm just pointing out there's a lot of breadcrumbs here leading to one destination, guys. And we call that destination Decimated DC. So please, guys, help us out with the channel. Hit like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and we will catch you again with another video. Goodbye.